Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day. And I hope you folks have been having a great week out there so far. I got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Thursday. We'll break down the entire lower 48. Really, the big storyline today is rain in California with this upper-level low that continues to spin off the coast of California. This will impact our weather over the next several days, all the way into Christmas Day, and eventually combine with another area of energy that will enter the Pacific Northwest. And we have to watch for a storm system that could deliver a white Christmas for areas of the country, and we'll actually talk about that after we discuss today's forecast. And then stay tuned for the second half of the video. We'll kind of do what we did in yesterday morning's video if you tuned into that. And we'll give you some updated information from yesterday and really overnight into this morning's model guidance, talking about the beginning stages of this pattern change. I don't think we'll have an abrupt pattern change, guys, coming up. There's a lot of chatter out there in the weather community. I've already seen in the comments people asking, hey, this other channel says there's going to be increased snow chances for my region once we get into January. That's pretty far out. I know it's technically not too far out, but guys, you know that I try to keep it within about 10 days, but I will talk about past 10 days. But, when I start to get past that, I start to mention a lot that things can change, and I try to throw that out there a lot for you folks. So we will speak on more detail about what's right in front of us, which is the next couple days into Christmas. And then after that, things could change a lot. But we will speak on sort of the tone setter, the beginning stages of this pattern change that I think is going to evolve as we get past the new year into the first week of January, and I think we will eventually start seeing better chances for winter weather across areas of the country. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can do that, and more importantly, a lot of other people can do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning and see if this thing's going to work, and it is, so we're good to go. So you see this spin going on off the coast of California. This continues to pump a lot of moisture into the central and southern coastline of California. We do have another moderate risk of flash flooding today for a very small section of the California coastline. We'll speak on that. In fact, it'll be the main topic in today's forecast portion of the video. But we also have a pretty moist flow shooting across Mexico into Texas all the way into the southern plains. So we do have scattered rain across areas of the south central U.S. You can actually see the funnel of moisture in the wider colors coming from the Pacific all the way to the south central U.S. And they're just, a decent amount of moisture just in general right in the middle of the country. But this right here is the big player. And the other player is going to begin to enter the water vapor loop screen that you're looking at probably here in the next 24 hours. And in fact, when I show you the western U.S. frame here, you'll actually see the moisture begin to enter the picture in about 18 to 24 hours, where another storm system, which will be our other area of energy that could combine with this, will enter the picture here in the next 18 to 24 hours. But this will scoot kind of across like this, across the southwest into areas of the Rockies, and then another area of energy will meet it somewhere, and they'll kind of try to meet up somewhere into here. And there could be just enough cold air for areas to see a white Christmas, maybe Denver up to western sections of Nebraska, western sections of South Dakota, areas of Wyoming. We'll have to watch Kansas, and the Euro and GFS totally disagree on what happens once we get past Christmas. So we'll speak on that here in a second, but want to kind of throw that out there really fast for you folks. Let's talk about what's going on radar. There's not a whole lot. You got some scattered light rain in Texas, some rain falling in the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, a little bit of moisture showing up in eastern Colorado. Not sure what's hitting the ground and what's not. You guys will have to let me know. Does show a little bit of a light, maybe freezing rain falling in northern sections of Minnesota. You are well above average temperature-wise up here, so you're not even really cold in all levels of the atmosphere for snow, which is pretty wild up here in the morning time of December 21st. It's pretty wild to think about. We do have some winter weather we're going to deal with in Nova Scotia throughout the day today. And we do have some moisture that's beginning to enter the picture, but I don't think this is the main area of energy that will enter the Pacific Northwest here in the next day or so. And then we have that funnel of moisture that continues to enter the California coastline and even inland into the state of California. But that's what's going on right now. What's interesting is I woke up at about 4 a.m. and there was tornado warnings, around the Southern Cal region. I don't think it was right over LA. I can't remember if it was south or north of LA, but that's, pretty uncommon for that area of the country for sure. But we do have that general risk of thunderstorms in the light green today, which does include LA, San Diego, all the way to Phoenix to Tucson, Arizona. So we'll, be aware of that. I don't expect much in the way of severe weather, but, we did have that tornado warning earlier this morning. And then check it out, the flash flooding risk. You have a moderate risk of flash flooding, which means there's a 40% chance of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles in a given location in this red area. The yellow, same criteria, but a 15% risk. So we still got to deal with the pesky flooding risk today. Watches, warnings, advisories, flood watches continue. We do have a flash flood warning ongoing right now in areas of California, but flood watches have been extended into southern and central Arizona with the anticipation of a good bit of rain coming from this upper level low that continues to spin that will eventually make its way inland into the southwest. We do continue to have the freeze warnings down here, and then there's a lot of fog across the country also. Let's talk about the southeast first, and then we'll eventually work our way to the most active area of the country, which is California today. But everybody else is pretty quiet. Some showers could continue to move across areas of Florida. It's a possibility, just some light rain, but nothing too serious at all. As kind of energy just pivots around this high pressure that is gradually moving on out. But we are dealing with another cold morning across areas of the southeast. It's pretty cold at my house. Here it goes with my nose itching again. I think we're down at 27 degrees in my house this morning, which is pretty chilly for our guys' standards here in South Carolina. But as far as we get into this afternoon, this evening, not a whole lot going on. Some rain will enter the picture here in Missouri and Arkansas and Oklahoma and Kansas, but we'll talk more on that once we get to the south central frame here. But as we are getting into tomorrow morning, some rain showers could enter the east coast of Florida, but nothing too active in the southeast for today. The northeast, about the same. Not a whole lot going on today, this afternoon, getting into this evening, getting into the overnight hours, getting into tomorrow morning. It's pretty quiet. Calm conditions. If you're getting a head start on some traveling, you won't have any issues with it at all in the northeast for today into the overnight hours. Very quiet day weather-wise. Now, south central U.S., we already have some moisture bubbling up. Some more moisture will increase across central Texas today. This will eventually try to scoot into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, all the way down to maybe San Antonio, some light showers, some rain making its way all the way up into western Oklahoma, areas of Kansas. Got some light rain showers showing up this afternoon in Missouri. And then they'll increase further north. But, we're going to have an area of rain later tonight. This is around 11 p.m. tonight. Some light rain down here in South Texas. I don't think there'll be much rain in extreme southern areas of Texas. But here in South Central Texas, along the coastline, some light rain. Some rain showers are possible. Some could be heavy, maybe in the form of some thunderstorms. But I don't expect much thunderstorm activity from this. But some light to moderate rain, overnight for areas of central and eastern Oklahoma, making its way and becoming more widespread into eastern sections of Kansas. Some rain showers in the wee hours of the morning in Kansas City, even into St. Louis. And then as we're waking up tomorrow morning, we continue to see some rain showers in central Texas all the way up through eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, and pretty much the entire state of Missouri has a chance to see a little bit of rain as we are waking up tomorrow morning. How much rain between now and just the next 24 hours? The most we'll see is in central Texas, where a half inch to maybe almost 3/4 of an inch of rain could fall. But most of this is light amounts, anywhere from a tenth of an inch to 3/10 of an inch of rain scattered about throughout North Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, into Missouri, and then northwest Arkansas. Not a big deal with this, but rain could be on the increase here in the coming days in this region. North central U.S., it's a quiet day too. Some light rain showers this afternoon could make their way into the Chicago region, northern Illinois, northwest Illinois, eastern areas of Iowa, and then these showers will try to make it all the way across the state of Illinois overnight into southwest Michigan, northern Indiana. It's crazy this time of the year. It should be snowing But it's not. Here we are with just some light rain showers. You got to get north of Lake Superior in Canada before you start to see some snow. But some light rain showers in the Great Lakes region are possible. I think it'll stay mainly dry in the UP today, though. The western U.S. Now, most of the action happens down here, as you can tell, and we're going to take a broad look at it first. Rounds of heavy rain continue to kind of thrash the central and southern coastline of California. This will just continue to pivot in, and you'll get some rumbles of thunder, some gusty winds. But here is our other area of energy that really starts to show up after midnight tonight in the Pacific Northwest. Almost said the Pacific Southwest, but the Pacific Northwest begins to see some rain from this area of energy that will eventually combine with this area somewhere over the Rockies or the high plains. So as we're waking up tomorrow morning, we'll start to get some widespread precipitation that moves into Washington and Oregon, kind of the same areas that always sees the rain in these areas of the country. The Olympic Mountains, it'll be cold enough for a little bit of snow in the higher elevations. And at the same time, this heavy rain from this upper low begins to spread into Arizona, Southern California, a little bit of snow in the higher elevations of Southern Cal, and we'll start to see some rain even in Phoenix, eventually into Tucson as we're getting deeper into tomorrow. But a closer look at today, rain will continue to overspread into these areas. I think as we are getting into this afternoon, some heavier rain could make its way into later tonight also. And then, even into Southern California, as we're getting into like the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning, heavy rain begins to work into these regions. I think these areas of Southern California will stay dry most of the day with just some on and off showers, but the heavy surge of rain really moves into this area of California, areas of southwest Arizona, and we continue to just get the rounds of heavy rain up into LA, certainly down to San Diego. North of LA, we'll continue just to get a lot of rain today. Even into tomorrow, it takes a while for this to clear out, but, as we're getting into tomorrow, late afternoon, evening, man, look at all this rain showing up for Arizona. This is getting into tomorrow. We'll speak on this again, but, rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, a good bit right here into this region, centered right into here. Kind of LA points north, really points north. Couple inches of rain, additional rain today as possible. But we move on here in time. We look at the southwest, and if you keep this going, look how much the rain adds up as we're getting all the way through Sunday morning in Arizona. I know 1 to 2 inches of rain ain't nothing for like the Northeast. It seems like they see 1 to 2 inches of rain every weekend, but this is a lot of rain for these areas that are just kind of usually dry. It's very common to be dry all the time. So 1 to 2 inches of rain could fall at a pretty fast and heavy clip in Arizona, so we need to watch out. Definitely a rainy next couple of days coming up, leading up to Christmas for sure. Temperatures, you're pretty cold in the Northeast. Another cold day. It'll struggle to get over 35 degrees a day, maybe just the upper 30s in Boston. New York City, upper 30s, low 40s. And then once you get a couple hours inland into the interior sections of New England, sub-freezing temperatures. A typical kind of winter day in the southeast, nothing too unusual at all, as high pressure is kind of fleeting away. So this morning was the last really, really cold morning. It'll be cold again tonight, but I would say this morning in the Carolinas, Virginia, Georgia was the last really sub-freezing morning as far as well below freezing. But Florida's going to be pretty nice today, but it's even chilly for Florida standards. Just 60s, even some low 70s in the south central U.S., above average and well above average in the northern portion of the country. The upper Midwest, 30s and 40s for this time of the year as well above average. But, that's just what we're seeing right now. Well above average temperatures extending all the way up into Montana, 40s and 50s for highs. Just some warm, moist air being surged into the southwest. So a little bit more humid than normal, especially this time of the year, and especially for this area of the country because of this upper level low. But it's certainly above average temperature-wise out west. Pretty much the entire country except maybe the Northeast and areas of the Southeast is above average temperature-wise. So let's talk about this storm system that could deliver just some messy weather the days leading up to Christmas and to Christmas Eve and to Christmas Day, and even after Christmas. And we'll look at the chances for rain because there's really 2 to 3 main sections of this storm. eventually these two areas of energy we've been speaking on the last couple of days will combine, just be one area of energy. But there's also a pretty stout moist flow and maybe a developing low pressure to the south. But as we are starting, let's see, the morning of the 23rd, so, Saturday morning, snow begins to move into the Rockies of Colorado, snow in the higher elevations of Utah, New Mexico, even Arizona, and then just continues to move Sunday evening, and snow begins to overspread areas of Montana, Wyoming, and this is getting into Saturday evening, and then we start to get into Christmas Eve morning. There's a big question mark in Denver. I follow a lot of people in Denver, and it's a head scratcher on what exactly is going to happen. But we need to figure that out. But I definitely think there could be snow at least flying around for Christmas Eve in Denver. Could be some more heavier snow, maybe in northeast Colorado, according to the Euro, western Nebraska, western South Dakota. And this continues and turns into a pretty doozy of a winter storm as we're getting into the afternoon of Christmas Eve. One of your classic kind of white Christmas kind of setups here as we're getting into late Christmas Eve, and there's an all-out winter storm ongoing here in central and western South Dakota, and even getting into areas of North Dakota now, and extreme northwest sections of Minnesota, with a low that's kind of ejecting across the country. And then what happens after that, it's kind of weird. We're getting into Christmas morning, still got winter weather across the northern plains, and then the low kind of backtracks here, deepens. We got a sub 1000 millibar low, which is getting a stronger low pressure. And then the moisture increases again, amplifies on the backside of this low. You got heavy snow falling across central Nebraska, starting to pivot into northern sections of Kansas as we're getting into Christmas evening, the day of Christmas evening. And who knows, this could bring the potential for some thunderstorms because you got such a strong low. And this keeps going, just pivots around, guys. And the Euro drops a lot of snow across the middle to high portion of the country. And then it kind of fades away, and then a push of cold air follows behind it. Okay, and that's getting on way out there, about 8 to 9 days out. But, the GFS does like the idea of a storm system over Colorado, western sections of Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, areas of Wyoming. It likes it, but it's more fleeting. It kind of happens, then heads on out. It's not that big of an event at all. Heads out, and it doesn't have this low kind of developing again and pivoting back west. It tries to develop a low right in here, but this is heading on out. It doesn't kind of get thrown back west. So therefore, you don't have a major winter storm across Nebraska. You don't have a major winter storm anywhere. So GFS, totally different than the Euro once you get to Christmas Day onward. I think Christmas Eve, I think you're a good bet for, say, at least at minimum, some light snowfall accumulations from Denver to kind of northeast Colorado, maybe western Nebraska, western South Dakota, and certainly Wyoming and potentially southern Montana. But, man, after that, it's a big question mark. It really is. What about the snowfall accumulations? Well, if you look at the European ensemble through the morning of the 28th, which, of course, most of this will fall before that, but I like to always extend it. The European ensemble says, hey, this is going to be a decent event for central, western Nebraska, areas of South Dakota, the high plains, just in general. Okay, the northern plains. I say high plains, you got the southern high plains too, which extend all the way down to Texas. So the northern plains. This, drops a white Christmas on Denver. Even brings snow into southeast areas of Colorado, certainly the Rockies. And, brings snow Christmas Day onward into Kansas. So it's an interesting event. But you turn around and you look at the GFS ensemble, it's significantly less. Now, it does bring accumulating snow kind of in those same areas. But we'll actually look at all the way to the 27th. But you notice that the amounts aren't as heavy. And it's a lot more everywhere. Like you got snow showing up all the way to the UP of Michigan. Okay, so I think this storm system brewing that's already kind of on our screen right now. It's already a player on the field. It's not something that we are waiting to where we can see evolve. It's evolving right now. I think this is going to be a big question mark, a very interesting storm. But, there's already going to be a pretty moist flow as this low. If you look at the European, but the GFS and the European kind of show the same thing. With a low back here, you're going to get kind of some active southern stream energy. pumping into the deep south. And unfortunately, as we're waking up, opening up Christmas presents, celebrating Jesus, and just having a great day, we're gonna wake up to a lot of rain in the deep south, and maybe all the way up into the Mississippi River Valley. I mean, all the way up the Mississippi River is what I'm trying to say. We're gonna wake up to a lot of rain across Missouri, Arkansas, the Mid-South, the Deep South. There's the potential for a messy Christmas day rain-wise, unfortunately. We always hate to see that, but it's definitely going to be a day where you're going to hang out inside, play with those inside toys and just hang out with family inside. As rain, as we get later into Christmas Day, begins to overspread into the southeast, even the panhandle of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. There is a chance for some thunderstorms with this storm system. We need to figure that out. Storm Prediction Center kind of mentions it. But as we get into Christmas nights, rain begins to overspread the Appalachian Mountains, start to get into the Ohio Valley, starts to get into the Mid-Atlantic, and then we're waking up the day after Christmas, and rain begins to overspread the Northeast. And then what happens after that might be interesting. We need to figure that one out for sure. But Christmas Day it definitely looks rainy for areas of the Deep South. It does. And in fact, you look at rainfall, we'll start off the evening of the 23rd. We're getting into Christmas morning, and look how the rainfall totals begin to increase through Christmas, all the way through a couple of days after Christmas. There could be a big-time rainmaker Christmas Day across the Deep South: Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, maybe Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, western areas of Kentucky. As you're waking up Christmas morning, it's definitely going to be rainy. But we'll fine-tune this, try to figure it out a little bit more for you folks as we go in time. So, getting after Christmas, we'll give you some updated information. We'll give you some updated Climate Prediction Center info right here. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, 26th through the 30th, which pretty much, brings us right between that Christmas to New Year's Day period. Above average temperatures are looking to dominate the northern and western and even northeastern portion of the country. What I want you to notice is near normal to slightly below average temperatures beginning to creep into the deep south, south central U.S. What's even more interesting, and this was issued yesterday, and I'll just be very interested to see on what they continue to do with these daily updates from the Climate Prediction Center going forward. Once we get to the 28th to the 3rd of January, these are the professionals, guys. This isn't a graphic that Mitch made. But once we start to get, closer to the new year, a couple of days after the new year, look at this. Below average temperatures are beginning to show up. There's a chance for below average temperatures for the southeast, deep south, and even areas of Texas with near normal right in between. So this, to me, is telling me that, a pattern change is on the horizon, and the experts certainly see it too. And, looking at the European ensemble, okay? I'm sorry, this is just the operational Euro. My bad. You see all the blue on your screen right here? That is our storm system that we just got done talking about. And this is what it looks like a couple days after Christmas. So the blue on your screen is lower pressure, typically associated with more active weather, stormier conditions, and typically cooler than average air after it pulls out. And then you got the yellows, the oranges, the reds. That's ridging. That's higher pressure, typically associated with above average temperatures and more stable, calmer conditions. So this big storm system that affects our weather for Christmas, and you can see the lower pressure across the deep south, bringing the kind of all the rainy conditions across Christmas Day. This system will pivot. This trough of low pressure will pivot across the eastern U.S. It's already brought a lot of weather at this point, but as this trough kind of digs in, it's not fleeting. It doesn't head on out. In fact, you got other pieces of energy that tries to fly around the backside of this trough, and this will be an interesting thing to watch. But, as we start to get to 8, 9, 10 days out, this trough just kind of sets up shop over areas of the eastern and central U.S. This tells me that you're probably going to have the beginning stages of cooler than average temperatures, some stormier conditions, and those areas of energy kind of flying around this trough. And as you get these areas of energy, we call these shortwave pieces of energy or just vortices or whatever you want to call it. I like to call it energy. These weaker low pressures, they can inject colder temperatures into this trough. It kind of injects just colder weather into an area in general. And what's interesting to me is as you get to the final frame, look at this lower pressure beginning to show up in the western U.S. This tells me that you're about to get an active, you're probably about to get a pretty active storm track that's going to set up further south. Remember, it's been pretty far north, throwing all that mild Pacific air into Canada. This is telling me that some things are about to change, that you're starting to get lower pressure showing up further south to the west coast, and these are probably going to connect if this was to continue to go further out. And it's the same thing with the GFS. The GFS really shows this trough digging down with some active storms. And here, this is what I'm talking about. You see this main area of energy here? Look at this little area of energy that kind of flies down. Looks like kind of like a bowling ball that gets tossed in the kind of the base of this trough. Throws another piece of energy in it, potentially another storm system in it. And then this continues. And then look at this other area of energy trying to shoot down into this trough. And as it does, throws in some more cold air, it amplifies. And then all of a sudden, you get a pretty chilly air mass over the eastern U.S. And then after that, what happens? Just lower pressure begins to show up over the entire southern and eastern U.S. Now we're getting to 246 hours out, starting to get past that 10-day range. We're starting to get into to New Year's Eve at this point. But some stormier active times with some the potential for some cooler temperatures begins to show up in the southern and eastern U.S. And just think of this blue on your screen. That doesn't mean snow. It just means lower pressure. It means a trough of low pressure. It means that you're probably going to get below average temperatures that kind of comes behind these storms. I guess you could say frequent cold fronts. And the potential for some sort of storm system, which could be in the form of winter weather. For someone, depends on the temperatures. I still don't think we get a true cold air mass until we get after New Year's. But you know, one thing that you can look at, and I don't know what happened to my screen here as far as I already had this pulled up. But if you keep going further, which I know, slap my hand, I know that I'm getting past 10 days here. But if you stop it at the 10-day mark, which is the evening of the 30th of December, at this point, you have tall ridging building into Alaska. Okay, you have lower pressure showing up over the southeast and the eastern U.S. This tells me you're probably going to have some sort of storm track kind of going like this, maybe like this, maybe like this. Okay? At the same time, at the surface, temperatures are cooling. It's going to take a while. Remember, we don't live at 500 millibars, which is several thousand feet up in the air. So, you know, if you look at this, you're thinking, man, that's really cold temperatures across the eastern U.S. That's not the case. You look at the temperature anomalies here, temperatures compared to average, and yes, there is below average temperatures, but you would think with that big old blue blob that you would have well below average temperatures. For example, look at Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and you kind of go back and you look at this. There's blue over Maine, so why is there above average temperatures in Maine? Well, like I said, this doesn't indicate what's going on at the surface. It just indicates an active storm track and some storminess in it, and it can indicate below average temperatures. But you keep going, and this ridge continues to show up over Alaska, which we like to see if you want winter weather across areas of the country. This helps to dislodge cold air. But you notice there's still a ridge over a good portion of Canada, ridge building over more so western Canada, the western U.S., which is your positive PNA. And then this blue begins to try to tap into a cold source. It's tapping into one over here on the Pacific side now. So this is a pretty good pattern. It's not textbook, but it's getting there. And we look at temperatures compared to average once we start to get into, you know, the first couple of days of January. Below average temperatures begin to show up for the southern and eastern U.S., and this is your typical El Nino kind of look here, with above average temperatures up in Canada, the northern sections of the lower 48, and below average temperatures in the lower portion of the country. And, you know, at this point, we're starting to get into January, favorable climate period of the year. And, yeah, this could be in the form of some winter weather. So you're starting to see everything kind of come together. I think this storm system coming up a couple days, you know, around Christmas time, a couple days after Christmas time, could be another storm system between Christmas Day and New Year's. I think that's kind of the tone setter. In fact, you can see that well. You know, we we get, I mean, this is the morning, this is the morning of December 27th, above average temperatures, well above average temperatures across the eastern sections of the country. But look at these below average temperatures beginning to creep into Texas, and then we start to get into the 28th. We start to get into kind of the 29th, then the 30th, and then look, it's kind of right behind. And always remember, you can get a big-time storm system, and typically right behind a big-time storm system, you get colder air. I don't know if you ever noticed, but right behind a severe weather outbreak, it seems like the next day is cold. Heck, sometimes the next day you're getting winter weather. It happens, it seems like, in the Mid-South all the time. Like Tennessee it seems like it's the big state for it. You always get severe storms, and the next day you could be getting winter weather. And that's how it is. You typically get a trough, a low pressure, and then a cold front comes in behind it, clears out the atmosphere, and that can kind of be the case here. Now, I don't think you're going to get extremely cold temperatures behind this, but because it's not tapping into a true cold air mass, which originates from up here, right? Your cold air mass is baking. It's above average. That doesn't mean it's 80 degrees in central and northern Canada. It just means that it's well above average temperature-wise. So, this is really kind of driven off just storminess. But eventually, you get a marginal cold air source in place depending on where your location is. Marginal cold air will work in early January for certain areas like the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. The Southeast, it will not work. You're going to need to tap into some better cold air unless you live in the southern Appalachian Mountains, like the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, maybe North Georgia. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Mitch's take on this is we're going to start to get there. But for my folks in the Southeast, which I know I originally started talking about weather with, that's kind of where I started, I think it's going to take deeper into January. And remember, I've said it many times, some of our best winters in the South, guys, you get the big winter storms in mid to late January to early February. I think somewhere along the line, our thoughts on winter has been skewed, or these outlier storms over the last couple of years have really just skewed our thinking of when the true core of winter is. And I think that mixed with the fact that we've just have not had hardly any type of big winter storms in these areas we typically have it. Last year was terrible in the East. It was, but I think some different times are coming in January. I do. I really do. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. If I lost you any there, please just put some comments. Ask some questions in the comments, guys. I'm not an expert with explaining this. I try to get better every single time. It's always tough trying to explain the troughs, the blues on your screen, and the ridging. Ridging is easier, but the trough is difficult because troughs symbolize stormier conditions, lower pressure, which are stormier conditions, and typically a colder air mass to follow. So if you got any questions, please put them in the comments. And yeah, that's all I got. I might have a video this evening, not sure, guys, but we'll see what happens. God bless all y'all, and have a great Thursday.